when I was in Wheaton and during my high school years, I worked for the Wheaton News Company, and it involved getting up at 4:30 every morning, even though I was a high school student, and going down and getting this big pile of Chicago Tribunes, and I had to sort them into and count them out and bundle them for the delivery boys and the newsstands. So once I got them all counted out and bundled, I'd get in the truck and go deliver them, and then I'd get back home 6:30 or so in the morning, and take a shower and go to school. And then I did my first year of college at Wheaton College, so I was still working for the Wheaton News Company. And I finished high school spring of '48 and started college in the fall of '48. And he was still working for the Wheaton News Company. And this one morning in November, I get a call, get down to the warehouse and get all of those Chicago Tribunes out in the alley and burn them. So okay. So I go down, drag all the papers out, set them up in the alley and burn them all. And they said, we'll get a new edition out as soon as we can. Well, it turns out what I was burning was the iconic Chicago Tribune that Harry Truman was holding up on the day after the 1948 election, and he's standing on the rear platform of his campaign train, holding up at full length the Chicago Tribune that has a headline that says, Dewey wins.
Which almost anyone of age has a memory of, because it's one of the most famous picture. Photos of all time. Okay.
So anyway, it turns out that's what I was burning. Now, recently I went and spoke to a group of people that are readers for the blind of the Albuquerque Journal. And they asked me to come speak to them. And I was going to tell them about how for more than 80 years, I've been connected to a daily newspaper. And then I told them the story about burning hundreds of Dewey wins headline Chicago Tribunes. And one of the readers came up to me afterward and she said, I got to tell you some more about that. She said, I worked for National Public Television, and we decided to do a show about that very close 1948 election. Mm-hmm. So she said, well, we figured we've got to locate that rail car that Truman campaigned all over the country. That's how you did back in those days. You
traveled around by rail.
You didn't have television. You campaigned. You went from state to state on the train.
And then would you speak from the back?
He'd speak from that back platform.
Okay.
So this was the morning after the election. And anyway, she said, we found the railroad car in a museum in Florida. And then she said, now we figured out we've got to get a hold of a copy of that Chicago Tribune and photograph that. And she said, we finally found a copy of it for $5,000. At which point I'm thinking, as she's telling me this, how many hundred of those did I burn and didn't even keep one because my orders were burn them. So I burned them.
Wow.
So anyway, and then they continued the story. She said they talked to somebody who was on Harry Truman's campaign staff, and he said to them, and he was referring to that thing that said Dewey wins, and he said, a couple days before the election, he said we were having dinner on the train, and he said Harry came to me and he said, I'm going to win. And he said, how do you know you're going to win? And he said, Harry pulled out this piece of handwritten paper, and he had alphabetically listed each of the states that he's pretty certain he's going to win. And then next to the name of each state, he had the number of electoral college
so he
delegates,
had added up,
and he added them up, and he said, "I'm going to win."
So when he was traveling,
he was right.
Yeah. So when he was traveling around, he was getting a gut feel of what the public reaction was to him being
because
there.
He's face to face with the public,
and so he was probably, I got a pretty good feel about this one. And then as he's counting them up, he's like, I think the math is there.
Yep.
Wow.
And which she said at that point, she said, "Do you by any chance still have that?" And he pulls out this piece of paper and said, "Yep, here it is."
Wow, that's fantastic.
So,
wow.
But I'll never forget that thing is, get down there and get the things out and burn them. And I thought, okay. So I did.